this is why this podcast is really geared toward physicians. Physicians are very different because they have gone through different mindset, right? They go through all of this education and training, 13, 12, 15 years, fellowship, whatever. And you get out and you're not experienced in running a small business. No, but you think to yourself, first of all, I don't want to get in. I'm not going to go get an MBA because I've got all this education now, right? And second of all, how hard could it be? I'm a smart doctor, right? How hard could it be to run a business? In reality, it's the hardest thing that I do. More difficult to run a successful business, right? I mean, and the bigger you get, as you know, and your operating expenses go up, the more you have to pay very close attention to what's going on. That's why the mindset is so different for physicians. Physicians don't fail. This is what you're told. You're never gonna fail in business. Well, the reality is the landscape was littered with a lot of medical spas and physician, actually plastic surgery practices at the downturn of 2008. Because they were over leveraged, because they borrowed too much money, because they went out and bought, instead of really doing their due diligence on a piece of equipment, they went to the big meeting, and by the way, this piece of equipment just conveniently happens to be priced around $100,000, and you can generate so much. And by the way, the guy down the street has a piece of equipment, so you're starting to feel like, geez, what is it? FOMA, fear of missing out, right? So, and you were told that physicians don't fail, and yet you haven't had a chance to talk to somebody who's gone bankrupt. And I know some physicians plastic surgeons that have gone bankrupt. How can I possibly scale up my operation? Because there's only so many hours in a day for a practicing surgeon. That's performance, right? How do I leverage myself? I have to leverage myself by scaling operations. And scaling operations, which is now make sure business become more valuable, does not depend on one person. For you to be able to grow your business, you have got to create a culture of winning and accountability, and you've got to be able to scale what you have so it's not dependent on you. This is why I think it makes it so difficult for those of us who are physician entrepreneurs, because that's not the way we're trained. Our everything, our ego, our everything is tied up in who we are and our practice and our business. And if you're smart about it, you should be doing just the opposite. You should be, you want to be the name for your patients, but as far as the business go, you want to devalue who you are. If you focus on money and you're driven, you will have it. I really believe that. But if that is your priority in life, there are going to be a lot of other things that get left behind. I know a lot of my friends and colleagues who wake up and they are very successful financially. And this isn't a cop-out. Like you shouldn't try to become a successful business person, have money. But I know a lot of people that have money and their priorities are screwed up and they're miserable. So, but why shouldn't you at least take a scientific approach to accumulating as much as you possibly can, given the fact, the sacrifice that you made going through medical school and residency and fellowship? Because as I mentioned from the beginning, don't count on the bankers or the insurance people or the investment people to be helping out. What I'm going to come back around to here is the importance of thinking of, net worth. What is my net worth and how do I get there? Because what I found coaching physicians and guiding physicians, that most of them focus on their income. And when you focus on your income just really translates into lifestyle if you're going to make that number for many, many years. And they don't think about the risk to their business. And that's very different. One of the things I want to spend a few minutes on here is talking about what do I mean by a net worth statement, because I think I had started doing it maybe 12 years into practice. I wish I had done that from the very beginning. And so I want to teach everyone how, so I apologize if this is common sense for a lot of people, but it isn't common sense because I don't know many many people that do this. So what you do is at the end of every, and actually is I've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger with our business. The bank requires this every year from me. You know, it also is what gives you leverage with the bank because what they see what your assets and your liabilities are. So you can get it from any bank, get it from your bank. Tell them could you have a blank financial statement? And in your blank financial statement, you will, and I'm going to really boil it down to just basics here because that's all, but the details there. You put all of your assets, you list them all. Real estate, you do an accurate business evaluation based on a multiple of earning, so EBITDA. You do, and you do this for every single thing, every single asset that you own. And then you fill out all your liabilities. What is owed. If I have a piece of land that's $500,000 and I owe 100 on it, that 100's listed in the liability. And you do it for your personal stuff too. Now I wouldn't put in there, I got a $30,000 tractor, but I mean, pretty much all of those real assets you list, things that you could actually sell tomorrow or sell within a reasonable time frame. And then what you do is you've got your net worth. And your net worth is you take all your assets that you own and you subtract all of your liabilities. And that number, if you have 3 million and 1 million, it's 2 million is your net worth. And what I think is very important to do is to actually graph this. And that's what I do every year. I look at how my net worth has gone up. And the other thing is it's hard to ignore if you have debt there. And I actually, debt makes me very nervous. So I try to have my, asset to debt ratio well over 10 to 1. And ideally I like it somewhere around, 15 to 20 to 1. I don't like to have a lot of debt. And if I look at where my, I have a small, all of the debt, we have very little debt in our business. And I have a little bit, a few $100,000 left on our building. And I got a little bit on my home and a couple other real estate ventures that we have. But by and large, that's what gives you clarity as to where you stand. It also is what makes you be able to pick up the phone when you're providing this to them. And I do it every single year and I graft it out and I have a file where I keep it all in, but it allows you to see where you're going. And then all of a sudden, just like the big snowball rolling down the hill, it starts to gain momentum, right? But why is that so important? Why is it so important? And I got to tell you, and in all fairness to the bankers and in all fairness to the insurance people and the financial advisors, okay, unless you got a financial advisor that is truly just getting paid by the hour, most of them are not really your friend because they have their agenda. They're trying to sell you more insurance. They're trying to, they're making 1% off all your assets. They're not going to give you the real clear picture because here's and this comes, if you read The Millionaire Next Door, it hits you. What do you need to retire on? I think you have to ask yourself that. And I have this conversation with my fellows when they first start. I said, what do you think you need to retire on? What do you need to live on? Is it 200, 300, 500? Well, if you're really conservative and you listen to the financial people, they say you can live on about 4% or 5% of what your net is. So if you need $500,000 to live on, you need 10 million put away. Okay. If you want to live on 200,000, you need 5 million put away. These are just rough numbers, right? Well, here's the problem with most physicians, and especially those that go down the road of trying to, develop their own business. Well, if you're living a higher lifestyle, you're putting less away. So it's this big slippery slope because now you're putting less away. So you're living on $500,000. You're never going to reach that 10 million because you're not putting enough away. And I don't know about you, but to me, the end game is not to get into retirement and contract my lifestyle. you have to take charge of this yourself, I believe, as a physician.